back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the 12 books that I read in October. I almost made it to a nice solid unlucky 13, but unfortunately I missed it by like less than 12 hours, but it's okay. It's all good. So I will be talking about the 12 books that I read. I did find some new favorites this month, and I had a really good spooky month. So let's get going. The first book I read was The Spite House by Johnny Compton. This book is about a man and his two daughters, and he's on the run for some reason. And he decides to take a job as like basically a ghost hunter. So he's not a trained professional or anything like that. But there's this house, and this old woman will pay a lot of money if you stay in it and you document every paranormal sighting you have. It pays in cash, and he can't beat that right now. He needs a job to support his girls. So the story focuses on kind of like life after death and hauntings and just, I guess, family. This book was not my all-time favorite. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars, 3.5, 4 stars. It had some genuinely spooky moments, and I did like that the house did not wait until they had settled in to be like, hey, guess what? I'm haunted. Here's my ghost. But I did enjoy it overall. I think part of it was I just wasn't super into it, and I did listen to the audiobook, and maybe I just zoned out too much. I'm not sure. But anyway, I will be putting this one up on it actually is already up on my Pango bookstore. So if you're looking to snag this, I will say it is a signed copy. Like, I have the signed book plate in there, and it just fell. But it's in there, I promise, when you get it shipped to you. So, yeah, if you're looking for a spooky, gothic, haunted house read, this book will be perfect for you. The next book I finished this month was The Mary Shelley Club by Goldie Moldavsky. And this book follows a young girl, and unfortunately she went through a trauma about a year ago. She had a home invasion and had to fight off her attackers, and she lived. So she's kind of getting used to this new school. She uncovers a secret society that is a bunch of horror movie lover teenagers. And she's able to kind of not infiltrate, I almost said infiltrate the cult. She's able to infiltrate this group and become a member of it when she finds out their secret. And they like to do these fear tests where they don't like to call it pranks, but they prank others in the school. Like, each member of the group gets to choose one person to do this fear test to, and they have to keep scaring them until they scream. So we see, like, the first half of this book is them getting introduced to the fear test and doing all that, but then people start to die in the fear tests. Our main character tries to figure out, is it somebody in the group? Is it somebody outside the group? Is it the people who tried to kill me last year? There's just a lot of secrets that get unveiled, and it's very twisty. I did enjoy this book a lot. I gave it 4 stars. My only complaint was that it was just a twinge long. I think it's close to like 470 pages, but it's a quick 470, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't feel like I was in the book forever. It was a little bit longer, but I didn't feel like I had just read like a 600-page book or something. So it's just very fast-paced. The next book I read, I listened to on audiobook, and it was The Bird Eater by Anya Alborn. This book follows a man who, when he was a kid, he walked in and found his grandmother brutally murdered, or brutally dead, basically, at like the base of the stairs. So he obviously got relocated and went to live with like his great aunt or something like that. So 20 years later, he's had a hard go of life. They just like lost their son, and him and his wife are working on like getting a divorce. So he's had a rough go of it. So he decides, his therapist is like, yeah, you should do this. So he goes back home, and he's going to kind of revamp the house and sell it, just make it all clean and everything, and sell the house. But the house is locally known to be very, very haunted. So, of course, he starts experiencing some of these things, but he doesn't believe in the haunting. So he's going to fix his house, and he's going to fix it right. And things just spiral out of control from there. If you've ever read an Anya Alborn book, A lot of times they do not have happy endings. They're very bleak, and I really love how spooky they are. Like, this ghost is not a ghost you want to play with. It's not Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's Casper the I'll eat you ghost. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. It was a blast to listen to. I think it's only like 8-9 hours on audiobook. It's a fast read and very chilling and great for Halloween season. Another book I read was Psycho by Robert Bloch, and this is a classic. If you've seen the movie, you've read the book, and vice versa. So I had never personally read the book. I've, watched the movie, actually for the first time, like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Really enjoyed it, and I'm like, why hadn't I watched this sooner? So I decided to finally pick up the book. I've had it on my shelf for a while, and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of told from multiple points of views, but we have... obviously, Norman Bates is one of our main focuses, and Norman Bates is crazy. So Norman Bates lives alone with his mother, and they run a motel together. But his mother's crazy and doesn't like women. And yeah, things just spiral out of control from there. So we have a woman who stole some money from the banks on the run. We have a sister looking for her, and a lot of things just come together in the end. I'm sure I could do spoilers and nobody would be surprised, but just in case somebody has not seen Psycho and wants to read the book, I will not go too much into detail, but it's a blast. I gave this 5 stars. It's a classic for a reason, and seriously, it reads like a movie. The next book I read was Burn the Negative by Josh Winning. This book was a blast to read. It's about a woman who used to be a child actor. Her mother kind of forced her into acting. When she was I think 8 or 9 years old, she had to play a part in a horror movie. And in the horror movie, she could predict people's deaths. And the creepy thing is, the people who would die in the movie started to die in real life, and their deaths were very, very similar to how they died in the movie. Like, there was one person who got bit by a spider and died in the movie. Guess what? They got bit by a spider and died in real life. So it was just creepy. And she kind of went... she went kind of incognito. She did not want to be an actress anymore, and she did not want people to know her name just because of all the mystery around this movie. So she changed her name and kind of changed her appearance, and now she's a journalist. But her boss decides to send her to the remake of this movie. They're remaking it into a TV show. Literally, when she gets in LA, she sees somebody jumping off a bridge. And so Def just kind of follows from there. And she keeps waking up, not having any memory of what happened, but she keeps waking up next to the bodies. So things get twisty, and it's a lot of fun. I gave this 4 stars. It's a perfect blend of multimedia and Hollywood horror, and it's just a blast for horror lovers. The next book I read was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This is actually my first Ruth Ware book, and I really enjoyed it. I listened to it on audiobook, and this is kind of like a take on The Turn of the Key, The Turn of the Screw, which is like a classic horror book about a nanny who has to watch kids, and the house is haunted and things are creepy. So obviously this is about a nanny who has to watch kids, and the house is haunted and things are creepy. So this house is like hooked up to an Alexa off-brand thing, like Happy or something like that. So the whole house is like voice controlled, and things start playing in the middle of the night. Our nanny hears stuff upstairs, and there's just tons of twists in this book. I could not see them coming at all. I was kind of like, I had to do like a double take when I heard one of the twists. I was like, excuse me? But overall, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's a great, very tense thriller that has some supernatural elements to it that will creep you out. And I really enjoyed it. This will not be my last Ruth Ware. I will be putting this on my Pango Books though, just because I don't think I really need to keep it. I've had it on my shelf for a while, and with the amount of books that I take in, make it sound like I'm rescuing books. I am rescuing books. The amount of books I take in, I kind of want to open up some shelf space, and I never see myself rereading this one. So I think I'm going to put it on my Pango Books. So if you're looking for The Turn of the Key, look at my Pango Books. I'll link my Pango Books in the description. Next up, I read The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. I started watching the Netflix series, and I'm like, I want to read the book. So, because I've read the What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher before, And if you've read that book, you've basically read The Fall of the House of Usher. If you have not read The Fall of the House of Usher, it is about a man, and he gets invited to come to another man's house, the Usher's house, I should say. And the Usher's sister is very, very sick. And so they just kind of talk. Stuff happens to the sister, and then creepy things happen afterward. It's a very short story. It's only like 30 pages long, so you would enjoy it. Like, the first episode definitely focuses on the fall of the House of Usher with what happens in it. And I think like each episode comes from a different story in like that story collection, so I will have to check out other stories by Edgar Allan Poe. I've read the Telltale Heart before, and the Cast of you know what I'm talking about, the one with the wine and stuff. So anyway, I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. I mean, it's a solid old-timey read. The next book I read was Hex by Thomas Oldhuvelt. I actually wound up listening to this one on audio. I tried reading the ebook and I just really could not get into it. So I figured switching to audio would maybe help me, and it did. I did not love this book. I will say it has creepy moments, and it does like have some character moments that I enjoyed, but a lot of the characters fell flat for me. It didn't really give me a reason to root for them. They were all kind of awful in this town. I think the town itself, like without the characters, had more of a personality than the characters themselves. But it was kind of scary how far the town would go to keep the secret of the witch from the outside world. Like, they would basically commit murder just to keep the secret of the witch. So I gave this book 3 stars. Like I said, it did have good moments in it. But it just was not the book for me, unfortunately, but it could be the book for you. I will be posting this on my Pango Books as well, so if you're looking for like a really good shape copy, go snatch it up, and I do hope you enjoy it. The next book is Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I absolutely loved this book. It was just a great read, quick read, really enjoyed it. It's not super long, it's like 300-ish pages or so. And it follows our main character who, about 5-6 years ago, she left a cult, aka her family. Her family is a deeply religious, I'm not going to go too far into detail, but a deeply religious family, and the town around them is very deeply religious. And she didn't want that kind of life, so she set out and made her own life. But she just lost her job, and then she receives an invitation in the mail to go to her cousin's wedding, and her cousin is marrying her ex-boyfriend. So of course she wants to show up. She buys herself like a little revenge dress, and she plans to wear it to the wedding. And so she gets back home, and of course technically they're not supposed to let her back in, because once you leave you're not supposed to come back, but she kind of gets an exception just because she is the daughter of a very, very, very famous horror actress. She starts having, you know, there were some good memories associated with the family, but there was also a ton of bad ones, and that's why she left. This book's a lot of fun. I will say, like 30 pages into it, I was like, what did I just read? Like, I did not expect like that twist. Like, I had a feeling there was going to be something like it, but I didn't see that coming, and it just made me so happy. I don't know what it was. It was just like, okay, that's the route we're going. So, but I really enjoyed this read. And I think you will too. It's a solid 5-star read for me. I really enjoyed her other work, Such Sharp Teeth, so I knew this one was going to be like, oh. The next book I read was Under the Blade by Matt Serafini, and this book follows a survivor of a massacre, basically. It's like Friday the 13th, and she lives and she kills the killer, and 20 years has passed, and she's, you know, made a life for herself. She's moved out of this town. She's, like a college professor. Her career's not going the way she wants it. She got passed over for something that she worked hard on, and she really wanted to do something for herself. And a lot of people have suggested, why don't you go back to the town? Why don't you kind of write a memoir or a tell-all about what you went through? She's put it off for years. She's lived in fear for years, but she's finally like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. So she goes back to the town, and then people start dying again, and our killer is back from the dead, and she has to learn how to overcome her fears and kind of fight back. This book went a whole bunch of different directions that I didn't think it would go. And it kind of blew my mind. Sometimes it weirded me out at times. But, I mean, overall, I did enjoy this book a whole lot. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so if you have that, you can read it for, you know, include it in your subscription. I gave it 4 stars. I mean, it was a really solid read. The ending was a little wonky for me, but building up to that, I enjoyed it. The next book I read was Schrader's Chord by Scott Leeds. I read this for my book club, my horror book club on Instagram. It's at Creep It Real Book Club, and I'll link that in the description down below. But this book was a blast. Like, it's like 407 pages, but I read this so fast. It was just a fantastic read. So it follows a man, and his father recently passed away, and his father left him a suitcase full of some records. And these records are supposed to be the records of Schrader. And Schrader had dabbled in the occult, and he made these records to see if he could talk to his dead wife. So, of course, Charlie, who's our main character, doesn't believe that the records actually work. So he and some friends go into his dad's old record shop, or, yeah, CD record shop, and they decide to play the records. And things start happening after that. They start being able to see the dead, and then things are hunting them down. And each one will die by a specific way granted to them by the records. So they try to figure out a way to stop this curse, and it's just an adventure. I really, really enjoyed this book. I could not put it down once I started it, and I wound up reading like 200 pages in like a day. I just wanted to read and read and read. I didn't want to put it down. So highly, highly recommend this book, and if you're looking for a cursed object book, this is a great book for you. And the very last book I managed to squeeze on for October was Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This book follows a vast cast of characters as they go on the hunt for mermaids. So several years ago, a ship went missing, and like one of the people on the ship was one of our main character's sister, and she wants to find she wants to see if she can bring her sister to justice, like her untimely death, because everybody on that ship died or went missing. Like the ship, like they basically just vanished off the ship. And they had taken some footage while they were on that other ship, like all the survivors and stuff, and you could see mermaids. So some people tried to say it was a hoax, some people tried to say it was real. So several years later, here we are, and these guys are going on a trip to see if they can prove the existence of mermaids. So they have a entire group of scientists, like it's a whole like yacht, basically a huge cruise ship, and they have every floor packed with scientists, and they are going to find these mermaids and see if they can bring one back alive to study it. So the book, I will say, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's a very solid read. There was some things that could have been cut from the book. Like, you would have one great scene where you see some character development and the mermaids are coming, and then we flip to another point of view and it's talking about science, 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 and then it flips back to another point of view and science, 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 and then finally we come back around to the mermaids. So I feel like some of it could have been trimmed, and then the ending was not as strong as I would like it to be. I feel like if some of the fat was trimmed from it earlier on, it could have added more room for the ending. I mean, I still really enjoyed it. I felt like the characters were very well developed in it, and the setting was super creepy and isolated, and I love me an isolated horror book. And the mermaids were just terrifying, or the sirens, I should say, were just terrifying. And I really liked exploring, and it felt like this could actually happen. I did enjoy that. Like, it had a very realistic, scientifical setting. But sometimes I felt like what was its strong suits were also its weak points as well. Like, I feel like some of the science could have been toned down and added in a little more horror. But overall, I gave this book 4 stars. It's a great listen, and I mean, the mermaids do not shy away from eating you, basically, so I did like it. Thank you so much for watching my October wrap-up video. Tell me down in the comments below how many books you wound up reading this October and what was your spookiest read. As always, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all the above. And don't forget to go follow me on Instagram at pages_and_ash, and I hope you creep it real.